the lead item is what everybody assumed was going to happen the minute that the signing did happen down in Jacksonville, Florida. The first cuts are happening today. The Turk is visiting. Playbooks are being handed in. Knocks are being the hard knock. That's what hard knocks is essentially referring to. It's a very hard knock on the door.
Yep.
And I don't know how many. It's probably first time Urban Meyer ever asked Tim Tebow for his playbook. It's probably the first time that's ever happened, and it happened. And so Tim Tebow, one of the first cuts of the entire training camp season. Jaguars were one of the first in with their cuts here, which doesn't have to be official till later on this afternoon Eastern time. And so Tim Tebow is not going to make the Jacksonville Jaguars. Much was made of Tebow's performance on Saturday night. It was nationally televised on NFL Network. Everybody saw Trevor Lawrence get the old cup of coffee, which then Gardner Minshew then drank, and then interestingly enough, did not go any more than we were expecting him to, even with that diuretic. But I digress. We did see Tebow's blocking. A couple of olays in there.
Blocking in quotes.
Tight end. A lot of tight ends don't block. We know that. Okay.
Yes.
Jimmy Graham is one of them. Okay. I mean, a lot of tight ends don't block. Some tight ends just go in there and catch from that position because they're a matchup nightmare from that spot. So, at any rate, look. Here's the deal with Tim Tebow signing and now cutting. I have a few things I want to say about this. I will just reiterate what I said when he was signed by Urban Meyer, and many people were saying he's taking a spot of somebody who deserves to have that spot, and we won't know ever if the tight end who would have had that spot would have survived this cut and potentially matriculated his way through the summer and wound up on the roster and turned into the next, big Bobby Tonyan. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. Again, the NFL is the you never know league. You can't sit here and say that the guy whose spot Tebow took up wouldn't have turned into the next great Jacksonville Jaguar. Can't say that. What you can pretty much say for sure is that Jacksonville Jaguar could not have been personified in the same body as Tim Tebow. And what was potentially being personified is Urban Meyer giving somebody from his past a shot. Tebow had to have asked somebody. The way Urban Meyer told it on this show and other places as well was that he was told that Tebow was interested. He wasn't around for the first couple workouts. Everybody said he was rocked up like Adonis and looked good, and you should give him a shot. And who knows if Urban was really there and had a very heavy hand on the scale. But there's no question he put his thumb on the scale and say, let's sign him. Let's give him a shot. And you could sit here and say that, he got such a work ethic that others can see, and that's potentially true. His work ethic is maybe matched by others. I mean, we do love Tebow for many reasons, and I'll get into that in a second. But what he definitely is showing, that's what I always thought. What he's showing on behalf of Urban Meyer to a team that is new to him and a league that is new to him and a free agency grouping to come that is new to him. You do stuff for me. You play hard for me. You represent what I want represented, and you are in the inner circle for life. Boom. So let's all band together here, 2021, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you do what I ask of you. You perform the way that I expect you to perform. You do what I want you to do. We do it all together. We are bonded forever. What a great message to give to somebody, said, unsaid, whatever. And last I checked, Tim Tebow arrived, didn't perform that terrifically in his preseason game. And he is now no longer a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, I'm just looking behind me. That is the sun that's out, right? and the world is, we're assuming it's still spinning. I mean, the 405 did have a lot of traffic, so I know we're back to normal.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of Tebow's playing career, because this is obviously a wrap.
For football.
Well, his playing career. What do you think? He's got still shot with TJ's New York Metropolitans? I guess you never know.
You never know.
We always could use some runs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Well, certainly when DeGrom's healthy.
Come on, Rich.
His NFL playing career is over. His football playing career is over.
All right, there we go.
That is in the NFL. He wants to go somewhere else. He wants to play arena. He wants to do something else for love of the game. Who knows? But his NFL playing career, we thought it was over. Now it's definitely over. And in the, now this will be my 19th season at the NFL Network starting this fall. Technically, we already started it anyway. But NFL Network, we're celebrating 18 seasons. I have been talking about the NFL nationally since I showed up at ESPN in 1996. In terms of meteoric rise, in terms of level of attention on somebody, and then despite the attention that's put on him and pressure that comes to them, a certain ascension and level of success that captured the imagination of an entire local fan base and national and potentially international fan base. And then 2 years after, 3 seasons after being a first-round drafted player, poof, gone. I don't know if anybody's had a career like that I've seen. Certainly in the NFL. I've not seen it. And I've also not seen somebody whose ability to flip a switch or have the football gods seeming to be the ones to flip that switch. And the fans in the stands reacting in a manner that has everybody plugged in together to electrify a stadium and then a scoreboard that had previously been so stagnant we were all falling asleep prior to that moment. I'm talking about Tebow time. I've never seen anything like that either. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. His career is so unique. You will be, I'll tell my kids about Tebow one day. Honestly, because my son was born. My oldest son, who will be a man in the eyes of the Lord later this month, was born. He was born in 2008.
Rich, I hate to interrupt these.
What?
But you're
with
all the Tom Brady stories and all the Derek Jeters.
Hold a minute. You know where I'm going. I'll tell them about him one day. I will, because this is. You of course can tell the story of the NFL without Tim Tebow. But in terms of what I've seen, when I tell them, because they don't know who Tim Tebow really is, he played when they were young or not alive. And they'll look him up and they'll say, Dad, he played 3 years in the NFL. What are you talking about? That's what they will say. They'll be, what are you talking about? Like, he started only 1 year.
Taylor's up to the game.
He won one playoff game. And then he got smoked by the Patriots.
Smoked the next week.
And then your team, Dad, picked him up and then thoroughly misused him, or he was thoroughly uninterested in the way that the brilliant mind of Rex Ryan offensively wanted to use him. And then poof, gone. What are you talking about? And I will talk about the fact of his career coming from college, being drafted in the first round, which is the personification of what we talk about in the draft every year. It just takes one team to choose you. That's it. And his 2010 draft, Josh McDaniels in his cup of coffee with the Denver Broncos with 2 first-round selections chose Demaryius Thomas first and then Tim Tebow second.
Tebow.
and bequeathed him after McDaniels flamed out to John Fox, who wanted no part of the guy. Because anybody who's anybody in the NFL who coaches any NFL team will never look at somebody perform like Tebow in practice and say, that guy's my starter. And injuries forced him to start him in Tebow's second year. Injuries forced him to Kyle Orton and everybody. They forced him to go there. And Elway, who just took over the team, Elway, the Duke, the man who's got all the talent collegiately and professionally with arm and legs like Tebow had. That guy looked at Tebow and said, no way.
Yeah.
Are you out of your mind?
Nope.
What was McDaniels? Like, he had to be thinking, what was McDaniels thinking? And yet, they have to turn to him. And Tebow Time hits. And he wins. And he wins games in which they were not even showing a pulse. I've never seen anything like it. In the fourth quarter, Tim Tebow Time hits, and then all of a sudden, passes that looked like they were thrown with his feet, looked like those beautiful spirals in NFL films, and people are scoring, and fans are going crazy, and they're winning games.
Was it that Thursday night against the Jets?
Against
right?
the Jets. I was physically there. I witnessed it. It looked like he was throwing with his left hand and his right hand together, spinning it with both hands, and then using it with his feet. And it looked like people were booing. It was awful. And then 4 minutes to go. Touchdown. And he's running. He's running in. And it's just like, where the hell did that come from? And then he wins a playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know that they didn't have Ryan Clark. I get it. But he still beat him.
Still beat him.
And if I'm not mistaken, in a walk-off touchdown in overtime.
Oh, yeah.
See ya. It might have been the new overtime rules.
It was the first year of the new overtime rule.
Who was the first quarterback under the new overtime rules to walk it off? Tim Tebow. And it was wild. Because everybody in Denver loved the guy. Everybody who loved Tebow in college loved the guy. Everybody loved the guy. And the guy who was the Hall of Famer, who knows quarterbacking, he's on my Mount Rushmore, sitting in the suite upstairs watching them win a playoff game against the Steelers, the entire time deep down knew, it's not going to work. And the only way that he could pull a coup on Tebow Mania within his own fan base was to sign Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that works.
Now do you get the story I'm going to tell my kids one day? This is wild. It's unbelievable. There was no other move left for Elway. With the way that Broncos fans were reacting to Tebow and Tebow Mania. Because why not? Why can't you continue on with this? And it's just like, do you see the guy in practice? Do you see the first 3.5 quarters? Like, really? Is he going to be able to pull one out of his orifice every single time with Tim Tebow Mania hits? I've never seen anything like it. And then, of course, the way that he beat the Jets probably got them on the Jets' radar, and the Jets get him. And then it was like, why are they getting him? You got Mark Sanchez.
No plan.
Because they had Mark Sanchez there, and they were only when they got him 2 years removed from the back-to-back AFC title game. So you have to still see what you got in Sanchez, and you bring him in, and they introduce him at the old, what is it? Those piers on the west side of Manhattan, and the Jets ownership and coaching staff were at the owners meeting in Florida. He came out by himself, walked out in the middle of they couldn't wait for Woody Johnson to get back from Florida and Rex. They threw him out there. He didn't have any answers. There was no coach or anybody there to make any answers. It was ridiculous. The Jets were the first team that could have sat Tebow down and say, Tim, Let's talk about the other things you can do. Let's talk about the wild offense we could come up with that makes you a matchup nightmare. No, won't be a quarterback. Worst possible scenario for him, because you're seeing what Taysom Hill's doing in the NFL, and Tebow could have been that. And now, here endeth the lesson of Tim Tebow. Now you understand when I say I'm going to tell my kids a story. I'm not going to sit here and say, let me tell you about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Let me tell you about a guy who played 3 years in the NFL. What are 3 years? A whole story written in it. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.